Well, I mean, competing in the UFC as opposed to other leagues, how does it feel? Does it feel like an honor to be recognized, especially among the top 10?
Well, yeah, it's awesome. Like, when I was with Bellator, Bellator was awesome. They had, they did take care of me. Like, I got to do a lot of really cool things. I got to go hang out with the Brooklyn Nets once, go to a game and do a signing there. And, there was an element to, like, I guess, fame to it. But the amount of respect you get by being in the UFC is like none other. It's just like being in the NBA or being in the NFL. So when you make it to the UFC, the rest of the world like automatically respects you and looks at you like, man, like you're the real deal. Like you're the best of the best. And so when I made it there, and they actually called me, they called me years even into my Bellator contract and was like, hey, you ready to come to 35? You ready to come up and fight for the UFC? And because of contract issues, I couldn't. But when I got released and, within 24 hours, I was picked up by the UFC and had a 4-fight contract, that things are just unfolding for me right now, that the UFC wants me around.
Well, having, a few knockouts on your record, when it comes to, female fights, you don't see knockouts occur as often as you might see in the male fights. How do you feel about having, legitimate knockouts, being scored as opposed to winning by submission or just winning by decision?
Man, I so badly want to be the first female to ever knock out someone in the UFC for the women's division. Like, I feel it like in my bones. Like, I actually get chills every time someone asks me about it because I know it's never happened. And I've made a lot of first times in MMA. I've been a lot of historical moments. So I feel like I could definitely do it. And it all just becomes about learning, how to strike and sit down on your punches. And, after my last fight and the way that it ended, I definitely think I'll be able to put one on someone's chin and really, make them tie their shoelaces, for the next 30 seconds.
Well, you mentioned your last fight, walk us through it. That what happened, splitting someone's ear, nearly ripping it off isn't something that you see every day.
Yeah, it was wild, wasn't it? Like, it was definitely one of the coolest things I think I've ever seen. And definitely being in front of, like, especially being in MMA, I've got 20 plus fights on my record, as an amateur boxer, as an amateur MMA fighter, and I've never seen anything like that. Like, it was just wild. And to see the pictures and some of the still shots of it, I was like, holy crap, the blood really did just squirt out of it. So, I mean, it was definitely really cool, and I'm excited to get back in there. Like, I felt finally like myself in the cage there, and like, you've seen me do different things. My leg kicks were on fire, my push kicks were on fire, my head movement, that I'm trying to show that there's a new breed in women's MMA, and I'm the real deal.
It seems as though like you just like were driven once you saw the blood. Did you feel any sort of remorse, like, oh my God, I just destroyed this woman's ear?
You know what? At the time when you're fighting, I mean, I maybe it's going to make me sound like a really terrible person, but this is the sport, is that, no, I didn't feel bad. I mean, a part of this sport is about how much damage you can make on the other person. It's about damage control, and I knew that I had damaged her, and I could see it in her face that she was scared and that it hurt and that it was bothering her. So yeah, I utilized on it. I mean, come on now, like, people kind of, gave me some like hard time about it, but at the same time, do you look at a football player bad whenever he hits someone hard on his side like he's supposed to? Like, is he then again bad because someone gets hurt because of it? That's the element of the sport that you can't change. So no, I definitely went for the ear a little bit more once I had seen it was damaged. I wanted to win. I wanted to win. I wanted that win.
Do you think that type of occurrence will ever be duplicated, where you see someone else nearly rip someone else's ear off with a punch?
No, I don't think so. I don't think it's possible to happen, because I think that it was just, that was my moment. That was my moment in this world to kind of make me different than all the rest of the fighters. It was the one thing that I was going to do. It's like when, Anthony Pettis hit the spin kick off the cage. That was his thing. Like, no one's going to be able to do it again. Like, Chris Weidman, he's never going to be able to do like what he did to Anderson Silva again. Like, that's his moment. And, my moment is busting a girl's ear off in Mexico City.
Do you think that the punch wouldn't have been as, damaging had she not had a bad case of cauliflower ear?
No, because if you've ever seen other cauliflower ear, like Bisping, I mean, something similar happened like that to another fighter named Bisping. his ear, like he had the cauliflower ear and it like exploded out. You know what I mean? It was like a tear, or not like a tear, it was like an explosion of the ear. Like her ear was literally ripping off of her head, and I know that it was because of the punching power. I mean, and I like to believe that.